The chair recognizes the gentleman from New York, Mr. LaLota, for his 5 minutes of questions.
More than any other cabinet secretary in America's history, Secretary Mayorkas is failing America. But don't take my word for it. 68% of Americans disapprove of the Biden administration's handling of the southern border. 68%. 75% of Americans see the border situation as either a crisis or a serious problem. 75%. So while our country is divided on so many policy issues, there is overwhelming support from across America for Secretary Mayorkas to finally secure our southern border. 68% and 75%. Yet, the administration and my colleagues from the other side of the aisle won't change their border policies. Secretary Mayorkas won't change his policies or approach. The administration won't reinstate Remain in Mexico, and blue cities won't repeal their sanctuary city policies. Secretary Mayorkas won't change his border policies, all while tens of thousands of Americans are dying from the fentanyl being smuggled across his open border. Secretary Mayorkas won't and can't properly vet the tens of thousands of migrants he is paroling into our country from nations with whom America is adversarial. So here we are. So what do we in this Congress do when somewhere around 75% of our constituents, and by the way, from blue districts and red districts and purple districts, want accountability? 75%. What do we do when tens of thousands of Americans are dying? What do we do when potentially hundreds of terrorist sleeper cells are being hatched every day inside of America's borders? What do we do? Do we do nothing? Do we wrap ourselves in some sort of bureaucracy and find some sort of legal reasoning not to do anything? Or do we act? And let me state quite clearly that I do not take impeachment lightly. Impeachment is meant for the most serious, grave circumstances when there is a true failure and willful dereliction of duty has occurred. And in this case, Secretary Mayorkas has committed 3 specific violations which warrant impeachment. He has neglected his duty to secure our border. He has abused his power to exercise proper discretion over America's immigration process. And Secretary Mayorkas has breached America's public trust. And no matter what the Secretary or the President say, the numbers speak for themselves. Since President Biden has been in office, there have been 4.5 million migrant encounters at the southwest border, in addition to over 1.2 million gotaways who evaded U.S. Border Patrol agents in the last 2 years. Those numbers are larger than the population of Los Angeles, the second largest city in the United States. And let me be abundantly clear, this is not the failure of the hardworking men and women who are out there every day in the front line of this crisis. This is a failure of leadership at the highest levels, right up to Secretary Mayorkas and President Biden. And while there are at least 3 criteria which merit Secretary Mayorkas' impeachment and removal, today I would like to focus on just one of them: Secretary Mayorkas neglecting his duty to secure the border. Attorney General Knudsen, good to be with you here today, sir. And thanks for your hard work keeping your residents in Montana safe. In October, sir, you joined a coalition of 27 state attorneys general in a petition urging Secretary Mayorkas to end his policy of mass catch and release. And I was hoping that you could define, sir, for Americans who may be watching from home today and maybe not so familiar with this topic, what catch and release means, sir.
Thank you, Congressman. I can. So, generally speaking, Congressman, under 8 U.S.C. 1225, the law is very clear. The Secretary has a duty to detain every single alien that enters the country. Period. Hard stop. Shall be detained. There is one exception. There's a case-by-case exception listed under Section 1182, which allows, on a case-by-case, individual, temporary basis, for either humanitarian or for public justice reasons, an exception. Under Secretary Mayorkas' direction, that basically has been turned into not a case-by-case analysis, but rather a mass catch and release, where those individuals are no longer given an individual investigation, an individual notice to appear in front of a judge. They were given a notice to report. That appears nowhere in the Federal Register. That appears nowhere in federal law. and was basically used as a mass catch and release program. So that's what we're talking
So
about.
would you agree that the mass catch and release that is not done on a case-by-case basis is inconsistent with the laws passed by Congress and signed into law by by presidents of both parties?
Absolutely, Congressman. There is no legal authority anywhere in federal code for mass release of immigrants into this country.
Thank you. I'm out of time. I yield back.
The gentleman yields.